He was abandoned by the goddess for being an A-ranked hero with the weakest skill, but it turns out to be overpowered, and he levels up to become the strongest. The story begins with a boy named Momori, as we learn he's a loner because of his traumatic childhood. His class is on a trip, but the class president Ayaka is bullied by a boy named Omata who takes her book for no reason. Everyone seems to ignore them, but Momori thinks about helping her, and even though he knows he can't do anything, he steps up and tells Omata to return Ayaka's book. Omata wonders what he's going to do about it, but the class Chad Takuto tells Omata to give the book back. He notes that he doesn't care about Momori, but he's tired of listening to them, so Omata backs down and gives Ayaka's book back. He sits down, and he starts picking on another boy named Yasu, but their teacher Tomatsu finally stops him. They are all suddenly transported to another world, and the goddess Vicious welcomes them as the chosen heroes. She explains they are in the kingdom of Alian and have been summoned to defeat the demon emperor. The heroes were able to defeat him 200 years ago, but he has been revived, so she wants them to lend her their strength once more. Takuto wonders what will happen if they don't help her, and Vicious mentions they won't be able to return home. She explains the reverse summoning ritual requires a special element called the Demon King Essence, and there are only 2 ways to obtain it. The first method is to get the heart of the Demon King, and the second is to collect the essence he releases upon his defeat, using a special necklace. Omata refuses to help her, because they have nothing to do with the Demon Emperor, but Vicious gets down on her knees and begs them to save the world. Ayaka wonders how she expects them to help since they're just humans, but she tells them that they have powers. She tells her soldiers to bring out a monster, and she lets it kill one of their prisoners, but she then blows it up using a fire spell, which makes the students believe they're in another world. She tells everyone to come with her, and she tells them to put their hands on a crystal ball, which shows them how strong they are. So the students go up one at a time to the ball, and as Omata puts his hand on it, there's a bright red light that gets Vicious excited, so he starts bragging, but when it's Takuto's turn, his power shatters the ball, and they're shocked because it means he's an S rank, which is the highest level. Ayaka also gets the S rank, and another girl gets it as well. Vicious can't believe there are 3 of them, because they usually only get 1 at most. Momori steps up next, but his light is so weak that Vicious doesn't even tell him his rank, which makes him realize he can't become special even in another world. Yasu goes next, and Vicious notes that the reaction is the same as the dark hero from the past, who is known as the strongest hero of all time, so Yasu starts to laugh, saying that it's finally his time to shine. After that, Vicious tells everyone how to open their status screen, and she notes that everyone has innate unique skills, and new skills can also be awakened later. Omata gets tired of the explanations, and Tomatsu tells him not to be rude, but Omata talks back to him since he's only a D rank. Vicious calls Momori to the front, and reveals they have a ritual of getting rid of the lowest ranked hero so he doesn't cause trouble for the others. She tells him he will be sent to the abandoned ruins, but if he can survive and reach the surface, he will be allowed to live freely. He wonders if the ruins are dangerous, so she mentions that many criminals and heroes have been sent there. He tells her he has a unique status effect skill, but she doesn't care, because skills like that are usually useless, because they have a low success rate. She notes that his stats are also low, so even leveling up won't help him. He starts to panic, and Takuto thinks they should get on with it, but Yasu approaches him. He remembers helping him in the past, so he thinks he's going to return the favor, but Yasu tells him to show him respect, because he has a higher rank. Vicious starts the ritual to send Momori to the ruins, but she gives him a bag, because every hero gets a unique item when they're summoned, and the bag is his item. Ayaka tries to help him, but Vicious punches her and knocks her out. Momori gets angry, and he tries to use his paralyzed skill on her, but it doesn't work because she has a permanent barrier around her. Takuto tries out his Dragonic Buster skill, which causes an explosion, and Vicious tells him to be careful. She asks Momori if he has any last words, and he starts to cry, but he remembers his past, where he tells himself to stop pretending to be good, and tells her he will come for her if he survives. Momori is teleported to the abandoned ruins, and he tries to open his status screen, but it doesn't work due to lack of visibility, so he pours mana into his bag, which illuminates his surroundings. A Minotaur suddenly attacks him, and as he tries to run away, he falls down, so he thinks he's going to die, but manages to stop its movements with his paralyzing skill. He's surprised since Vicious said his skill would only work on low-level monsters, and as he runs, there's a bird monster that attacks him, but his skill works on it again. He wonders if his skill is special, but as he checks his status screen, he sees that he's almost out of mana, so he uses the last of it to hit the monster with poison. He's relieved it worked, but the Minotaur appears again, but instead of giving up, Mamori gets ready to kill it, because it's the only way for him to survive. He realizes he has used up all his bonus mana, so he wonders what will happen if he uses all his natural mana as well. He tries to use his paralyzed skill again, but he's surprised when it doesn't work, and the system tells him he can't use the same skill repeatedly on a target. So he uses a sleep skill on the Minotaur, and follows it up with his poison, but he's shocked when a huge group of monsters appear. He continues to use his paralyzed skill, and he reaches his limits, but the bird he poisoned dies, and he suddenly levels up to over 200, and his mana is restored. He keeps paralyzing the monsters, and his skills also level up, allowing him to target multiple monsters at once. He thinks that Vicious is the only one his skill doesn't work on, because he has had a 100% success rate since he was sent to the ruins. He uses his poison on the monsters, and as they start to die, he levels up even more. He also uses his sleep skill so it can level up, and even though he knows anything could happen, he thinks he can survive, because he can kill all the monsters with his current power. He reaches level 500, and as he goes to finish the rest of the monsters off, he's surprised when they run away. He gathers everything useful around him, but he knows he needs to find food and water to survive. After he doesn't find anything, he goes back to the monsters he killed and decides to eat them, but their bodies are too tough. He doesn't have any strength to move, but he sees the gem on his bag has changed color, and when he picks it up, he's shocked to find food inside it, and he wonders how it works. As time passes, Mamori keeps killing every monster that comes his way, but he starts to cry, and wonders what he's doing it for. He remembers the time his aunt and uncle took him in, and they taught him what kindness felt like, but he thinks he has failed them, because he doesn't feel anything while he kills the monsters, but he knows he needs to accept who he has become. He continues to explore the ruins, and as he pours his magic into a gem, a door opens, and he's surprised to find bodies of people inside, because he didn't think anyone else would have made it this far in the ruins. He looks around and finds a bag of gems, which he decides to take, because he thinks they will be useful once he reaches the surface. He searches the other rooms, but he comes across one which requires a lot of mana to open. He finds a letter beside the body in the room. The skeleton is of a man named Anglin, who was once known as the Dark Hero, and Mamori remembers Vicious saying Yasu had the same reaction from the crystal as the Dark Hero. The letter mentions that Vicious was the one who sent Anglin to the ruins, because she considered him an eyesore, and he wants to give something to the person reading the letter. Mamori gets angry at Vicious, because she told everyone the Demon Emperor is evil. He thinks she's way worse, but he thinks he's become just like her, because instead of saving the world, he just wants to get revenge. Mamori searches the bag beside Anglin, and he finds a book on forbidden arts, which he decides to take with him, thinking it might be useful. After that, he sees a forbidden magic scroll, and he can't read what's written on it, but he thinks it must be a powerful spell, so if he decrypts the scroll, it might become his trump card against Vicious. Mamori opens the Forbidden Arts book, and he's surprised because there's a warning in it, telling him to be aware of the Soul Eater, because it's the one who killed everyone. He comes across another room, and he sees it needs a gem to be opened, which makes him wonder if it leads to the surface, but he's also on guard, because if the door is the exit, then the Soul Eater must be nearby. He looks around and finds a face embedded in the wall, but before he can use the paralyzed skill, a laser hits his hand. He realizes the beam is activated when he starts to attack, and he knows the Soul Eater must be powerful since it killed Anglin, who was known as the strongest hero, but he still needs to fight it, because he needs the gem on its face to open the door. Mamori thinks about how he needs to call out the name of the skill he wants to use, but the Soul Eater doesn't allow him enough time, so he doesn't know how he can beat it. The wall behind the Soul Eater suddenly breaks, and Mamori thinks it's the monster that rules the ruins, so it means it's the last enemy he needs to face before he can escape. The Soul Eater starts to puke, and it turns into monsters, but Mamori is shocked because they have human faces. He realizes the Soul Eater is showing him how the people reacted before they died, and it enjoys seeing his reactions. He paralyzes them, but as he's about to use his poison skill, he stops himself, because he can't use such an awful skill on something that looks human. The Soul Eater makes even more monsters, because it enjoys seeing him suffer, but Momori suddenly paralyzes it, and he notes that the Soul Eater was at its happiest, which made it lower its guard, saying its overconfidence was its downfall. As Momori kills the Soul Eater, the souls of everyone it killed appear in front of him, and they thank him for defeating the monster, asking him to help them get revenge on Vicious. Momori puts the gem in the door and he finally gets out of the ruins. Meanwhile on the surface, we see Omada chasing after a wolf, but Takuto easily blows one up with his Dragonic Buster. A girl named Kabato struggles with hunting, but another girl named Asagi predicts their class is going to fall apart, because everyone has a big ego. She notes that people are grouping up, and she wants Kabato to join her. She knows Kabato is only rank D, so she can't expect to be in Takuto's group. She tells Kabato to carefully decide who she wants to be with, because after defeating the Demon Emperor and returning to their world, their achievements might change their status, so if she doesn't choose wisely, she might struggle to find a place where she belongs. But before she can join their group, Asagi notes she hasn't cleared the test that Vicious gave them, so they bring out a small monster that's chained up, and she tells Kabato to kill it. Kabato hesitates at first, but seeing she has no other choice, she stabs it with her sword, but she starts to cry as she remembers the time Momori saved a stray cat. Ayaka goes to meet Vicious, who acts like she's sad about what happened to Momori, but she mentions it was a ritual that needed to take place. She tells Ayaka that while she was knocked out, the rest of the heroes were given a test to see if they can kill a monster, and the ones who failed the test were disqualified. Ayaka tells her she doesn't agree with the way she does things, but Vicious starts to laugh and notes that everyone has different opinions, so as the goddess, she endures all of them, but the weak still need to be disposed of. Ayaka knows that Vicious values her since she's an S-ranked hero, so she offers to cover for the students who failed the test if she doesn't dispose of them, and Vicious accepts her proposal. Meanwhile, Momori reaches the surface, and he opens his status screen to see what new options he has for his skills. He wants to find a person who can fight for him as his vanguard, but as he moves forward, he comes across a group of slimes bullying a smaller one. Momori is happy to see the smaller slime fight back, so he decides to help it, and hits the others with his paralyze and poison skills. He sees he has the option to turn off his skills, so he lets the other slimes go, and he praises the little one for standing up for itself. The slime starts to follow him, so he decides to take it with him, and Momori names it Pigamaru. We see a girl named Ceres, as she's chased by a group of men, and she realizes she can't outrun them, so she takes out her sword and gets ready to fight, but the men come across Momori before they get to her. One of them tells him to give them everything he has and they will let him go, but another one wants to test his new blade, so he plans to kill Momori. Momori begs them to let him go, but he gets attacked, so he paralyzes the man, and he's relieved his skill also works on humans. He doesn't find the men as intimidating as the monsters in the ruins, but he feels their intentions are worse, so he knows he won't feel bad if he kills them. He uses the poison skill to take care of them, but he senses Ceres, and she's surprised because she can't feel the presence of the people who were chasing her, but she senses Momori. She sees movement near her, so she attacks it, but Momori appears behind her and paralyzes her. He decides to talk to her, but keeps her paralyzed so she doesn't attack him again. She wonders what he wants with her, so he says he's lost because he's new to the area, and he just wants her to give him information. He notes he has been through a lot, so he doesn't trust strangers, which is why he's only allowing her to move her face. Before answering his question, she wonders if he came across a group of men, and he tells her that he killed them, which surprises her, but she doesn't think he's lying. She tells him they're in the forest that's south of the kingdom of Olza, and he wonders if she knows the writing on the scroll he got from Anglin. She knows it's an ancient script and she can't read it, but she thinks the Witch of Taboo can help him, and she tells him he can find her in the land of the golden-eyed monsters. He thanks her for the help, but even though she doesn't feel like she has repaid him for saving her life, he tells her they're even. After he leaves, he still thinks she might attack him once she's free, so he tells Pigamaru to watch his back. Momori reaches a town called Millis, but he's surprised by how easily he got in, because the guards didn't even bother checking him. He goes to an inn where the owner is suspicious of him, but when Momori shows him money, his attitude completely changes. At night, Momori walks through the town, and he feels it's pretty safe. He wonders if the shops there sell magic items, and after getting an idea of what the town is like, he goes to have dinner, where he finds a group of people talking about who the strongest group on the continent is. They name all of the different crews, but in the end, they all think the Black Dragon Knights of the Bacchus Empire are the strongest, because they're the ones who wiped out the Holy Empire of Nia. There are rumors that their 5 dragoons rival a whole army, and their leader Garland is also considered as humanity's strongest. Momori returns to his room, where he plans to find the Witch of Taboos first. He also needs to work on the experiment to increase Pigamaru's strength, which requires the powdered bone of the Skeleton King, and Momori remembers the Skeleton King is found in the ruins near the town. The next day, a man named Hercule tells everyone a new floor has been found in the ruins, so he wants all of them to explore it, and says that whoever finds the Dragonite Chalice will be given 300 gold. They will also be rewarded for any other treasures they bring back, and they're allowed to use any monster materials they find. Momori sees a woman being harassed, and he realizes it's Sarah's, but he's surprised when the man mentions she's a former knight captain. The man reveals he met her once before, and he asked her out, but she rejected him. Sarah's doesn't remember meeting him, so he mentions she's an elf who's on the run, and she must have pointy ears, but as he takes off her hood, he's shocked to see she has normal ears. After that, Momori plans to buy a few items, and he runs into Sarah's, who realizes he's also going to the ruins. He tells her to be careful, because the man who harassed her was filled with rage and hatred, but she thinks it's better when people hate her, since it makes them stay away. He knows she's trying to avoid any contact with other people, but he asks for her help in buying items, because he doesn't want to get scammed. After he buys the equipment, he pays Sarah's for her help, but she's surprised by how much he's giving her. She's about to leave, but she suddenly falls down, and she notes it's because she hasn't slept in a few days. After that, Momori enters the ruins, and he sees a few men run away from a monster, but he paralyzes the monster and stabs it with his knife. The men return with another person, but are shocked to see the monster has already been killed. Momori doesn't feel that the monsters there are powerful, and he isn't gaining much XP, so he plans to complete his mission quickly. He comes across the man who harassed Sarah's, and we see he's hired 2 men to kill her, but they want to have some fun with her body before killing her. Momori approaches them, and before they can attack him, he asks them to spare him, but seeing that they aren't going to change their mind, he paralyzes them and also uses his poison. He feels satisfaction from killing people like them, and after he leaves, they're torn to shreds by the monsters. Momori is about to reach the new floor, but he decides to rest before continuing, so he sleeps for a few hours while Pigamaru keeps watch. After that, he runs into a group called the Saber Tigers, and their vice captain named Foss tells Momori that there's something weird going on in the ruins, because they're finding monsters who have died in strange ways, and they can't figure out what's killing them. The only thing they know is that their skin turns deathly pale, and their captain Lily notes even the strong monsters are dying the same way. She values the safety of her group, so they have decided to return to the surface, and she wonders if Momori wants to come with them, but he decides to stay. After they leave, Momori thinks they were talking about the monsters he has killed, and he thinks it's a good thing, because if the word spreads, it will mean fewer people will stay in the ruins. He finds the Dragonite Chalice, but before he picks it up, he sees a monster statue beside it. He knows the moment he picks it up, the statue will come to life, so he kills the monster first. Sarah's also arrives, and is surprised he's there, because she thought she would be the first to find the chalice, since the other mercenaries are pulling out. Momori decides to give her the chalice, and he doesn't want anything in return, but she can't accept it for free. He opens a secret passage, and explains his goal is to defeat a certain monster, so Sarah's offers to guard him, and she promises not to get in his way. He allows her to come with him on the condition that they aren't going to ask questions about each other, and if she wants to return to the surface alone, he won't be responsible for her safety. She accepts the condition, and as they go deeper into the ruins, they come across a monster, but Sarah's defeats it easily, and Momori is impressed by her skills. He asks her about the golden-eyed monsters, and she explains they're the ones who contain a great deal of experience, so the heroes from other worlds kill them to level up quickly, because they don't get any experience when they kill humans. The Demon Emperor radiates a special energy, and the eyes of the monsters that are strongly influenced turn gold and they become violent. After that, they reach a room, and Ceres mentions she has been sensing a monster for a while, so Momori introduces her to Pigamaru. Momori decides they should rest, and he tells Ceres to sleep, but when she refuses, he tells her to just lie down for a while, and he puts her to sleep using his skill, which turns her back into her original elf form. Meanwhile, Garland finds the bodies of the men that Momori killed, but he thinks Ceres is responsible for their deaths, and he wonders if she can give him a good fight. Momori and Ceres find the Skeleton King, and he realizes it's way stronger than the other monsters, so he wonders how they should attack it. Ceres mentions they need to shatter the silver chain beneath its chin, and she uses a power to enhance her physical abilities, and she also makes a unique armament, but she wants to keep her power a secret, so she asks him not to tell anyone about it. The Skeleton King starts to gather energy in its mouth, and Ceres apologizes in advance in case she can't protect him, but she's shocked when he defeats it with his paralyze and poison skills. Momori finds what he was looking for, but as they're about to leave, Pigamaru leads them to an egg, and Momori decides to take it with him. Meanwhile, Ayaka and the others fight against monsters, and she tries to protect her friends, but she's interrupted by Omada and Takuto, who blow away the monsters. Momori and Ceres reach the surface, and everyone is shocked to see she has the chalice. After she submits it, she meets with Momori and tells him there's a reception for her the next day to get the reward. He realizes she's free until then, so he tells her to come to his room because he needs to speak with her. Before he leaves, she thanks him again for giving her the chalice, but he doesn't think she needs to thank him for anything. At night, Momori makes the solution from the Forbidden Book to increase Pigamaru's strength, but they're interrupted by Ceres. He asks her to be his bodyguard, because he's going to the land of the golden-eyed monsters, and he expects to be attacked a lot, so he wants someone skilled like her to have his back. She notes that she's on a journey to the Duchy of Yamato, and they could go through the land of the golden-eyed monsters to get there, but she isn't sure what to do. Momori reveals he knows her real identity, and he was the one who put her to sleep in the ruins. She mentions that she uses the power of the spirits to hide her identity, but in exchange she can't sleep, but she trusts him so she changes into her original form. He also tells her his real name, telling her not to tell anyone else, and in return, he won't reveal her identity to anyone. So she agrees to go with him, and he also gives her one of the gems he found from the abandoned ruin, but Ceres is shocked because they're extremely rare. Momori wonders if they're valuable, so she notes that they can only be made from blue-eyed dragons, and one of them is worth more than the reward for the chalice. She refuses to accept it as payment for her being his guard, but he tells her he won't take it back, so she can just throw it away if she doesn't want it. The next day, they overhear people talking about how Ceres was seen leaving Momori's room at night, but he tells her not to pay attention to them. He wonders if she knows anything about forbidden magic, so she mentions it's the magic that has been banned by Vicious, which makes him think it must be effective against her if she doesn't allow anyone to use it. Ceres goes to attend the ceremony to get her reward, and after she leaves, Momori gets ready to perform the strength-enhancing experiment on Pigamaru. At the ceremony, a mage is called to test whether the chalice is real, while Momori gets worried when Ceres doesn't return by their agreed time. At the Alien Castle, Vicious wonders why Ayaka isn't in Takuto's group, and she mentions she can't work with him, so Vicious notes that the harmony of their class is being disrupted due to her selfishness. Ayaka notes that no matter what happens, she can't work with Takuto because of the way he has been acting recently, so she will fulfill her duties in her own way. Vicious tells her she will need to train those who fail the trial, which shocks her, because they had a deal that she would take on their workload, but Vicious mentions she has been given the order to dispose of the worthless heroes, so if she won't train them, they're going to be killed. Meanwhile, Momori goes to look for Ceres, but he overhears people talk about how her identity was revealed, and that she's on the run. The Black Dragon Knights chase her, and even though she manages to defeat a few of them using her spirits, she struggles against one of them named Gazun, but she thinks she can defeat him if she could use her spirit regalia. She's surprised because their order was to catch her alive, but they're trying to kill her, and Gazun reveals his unit is under secret orders. He holds her down, but before he kills her, He plans on having some fun with her, but Momori suddenly comes to her rescue. She thinks they should end their agreement, because if she's with him, he will also be targeted by the Black Knights, but he doesn't want to go through the hassle of finding another bodyguard. He gives her a bag full of gems as payment to continue being his guard, and he suddenly tells her to take off her clothes. He tells her to change her outfit, because people have already seen her in her current clothes, and Ceres is relieved hearing his reasoning. He plans to find the Witch of Taboos, and thinks Ceres should negotiate with her to let her stay there, because no one would find her. They ask Gazun who sent them to kill her, but before he can talk, Garland arrives and throws a sword, which kills him. Garland mentions they were ordered by the Emperor Ratola, because he couldn't bear the thought of another person being with Ceres, so he told them to kill her. Garland notes Gazun would have only gotten in their way, but if he had dodged his sword, he would have let him live. One of the men named Schwartz wonders what they should do with Ceres, so Garland asks him what the orders from the Emperor were, and he mentions they were told to do whatever they liked. Schwartz thinks they should pass her around their men before killing her, but another man named Orban thinks it would cause problems for them, because they were told to bring her body back with her purity intact. Garland notes that if Ceres can defeat him in a duel, he will let her go, and he was interested in seeing her spirit regalia in action, but he has become more interested in Momori. He asks Momori to introduce himself, so he gives him an alias, but Garland knows he's using a fake name, which makes him wonder why he needs to hide his real name. Schwartz doesn't understand why Garland is wasting his time on Momori, but Garland finds it interesting that even though he stands in front of the 5 dragoons, he still isn't scared, and he's looking for an opening to attack. Momori knows that one wrong move will result in his death, but he keeps smiling and making conversation. Momori notes that if he's just looking for a person to give him a good fight, he should just fight Vicious, so Garland mentions it's because they have good relations with Alian, but he does have high hopes from the heroes she summons. Garland tells Ceres she's the reason the Bacchus Empire attacked Nia in the first place, and it's because their goddess wanted Nia to turn her over, but their emperor refused. Momori reveals he's one of the heroes from another world, which shocks everyone, and Garland wonders what he's doing there. Momori notes that he's in another league compared to the other heroes, which is why Vicious has given him the freedom to do whatever he wants. Garland asks him what he wants, so Momori mentions he wants to delay their fight, because he plans to get stronger, and when he reaches a level where he can give him a challenge, they should fight at that time. Garland finds the proposal interesting, so he accepts it, but he still plans to kill Ceres. Momori mentions he needs her help in his journey, and Garland is surprised he plans to take Ceres without Vicious's permission, but Momori says it doesn't matter, and he's going to use her to become stronger. So Garland decides to let her go, and when Orban tries to get him to reconsider, he threatens to kill him. Garland prepares to leave, but we learn that everything Momori said was just to get them in range of his spell. So when they finally get close enough to him, he paralyzes all of them, and they fall to the ground from their dragons. He follows it up with his poison skill, and he's impressed by Garland, because he's able to move a little, but it's all useless, because moving only hurts him more. But Garland manages to send a signal to another squad, and when they arrive, he tells them to attack him from the skies and avoid getting close. Momori plans on defeating everyone, and he tells Ceres she can run away, but she decides to stay with him. Momori suddenly links with Pigamaru, because after the strengthening experiment, he gained a new skill. Pigamaru stretches up into the sky, and after Momori is linked with him, they become one, and he paralyzes everyone in the sky using Pigamaru's body. His skills level up, and he unlocks 3 new skills. He uses his new Berserk skill on Orban, and it increases a person's violent tendencies, so Momori knows that using it with his paralyzed skill is an easy way to kill someone. He uses another skill called Dark on Schwartz, and it takes away his vision, but Momori doesn't feel bad for using them like lab rats, because they're trash who had bad intentions for Ceres. Momori is impressed that Garland is still alive, and he thinks Garland really wasn't called humanity's strongest for no reason, but he eventually passes away. At night, Ceres tells Momori about a man known as the Hero Slayer, who might become even stronger than Garland, but Momori notes that he already killed him. Meanwhile, we see the class together, and Ayaka thinks about how she still hasn't unlocked her skill. A girl named Naya appears, telling them she's there on behalf of Vicious, but Omada can't accept taking orders from such a small girl, but she quickly defeats him to show everyone her power, and she tells them it's time for the next phase. Mamori tells Ceres about his plan to get revenge on Vicious, and she also doesn't have any good feelings towards her, so she tells him to use her in any way to get his revenge. He notes there isn't anything for her to gain by helping him, but she mentions he saved her life, so she will follow him no matter what he does. We see a group of men outside the abandoned ruins notice something strange, but they decide not to report anything because they think it's impossible for anyone to have made it out. Meanwhile, at a town, Mamori checks out a mask, and the owner tells him it's based on the Fly King, who was the king of a demonic race, but he was banished because he was said to be evil. Mamori ends up buying it, and he thinks that it suits him to be a devil rather than a hero. In the Magnar Kingdom, we see a meeting between the nations, as they wonder how Garland and the Black Dragon Knights were defeated. Vicious notes they were after Ceres, and they found a lot of blood, thinking she must be heavily injured from fighting them. Vicious thinks that losing the Black Knights is a great blow to their forces against the Demon Emperor, thinking they will need to rely more on her heroes, but the Emperor of the Mira Empire knows she isn't upset by this. The King of Magnar wonders if Ceres could have really defeated Garland, but he gets a report that a group of sorcerers called the Shinto have claimed to be the ones responsible. Ceres tells Mamori that the land of the golden-eyed monsters is to the north, and they decide to stop at an inn. Ceres thinks they should save money, so she offers to share a room with him. As they have dinner, they hear the rumors about the Black Knights, and they learn about a Shinto. Mamori wonders if Ceres knows about them, so she mentions that they worship the curse god. But a group of hooded men suddenly appear, and they call themselves the sorcerer soldiers of a Shinto, but Mamori doesn't find them intimidating. He's happy for them to take credit for killing the Black Knights, and some men start talking about the people they think are strong enough to kill the Black Knights. One of them mentions the Witch of Taboo, so Mamori asks to hear more about her, offering to buy them drinks. They tell him that she was only seen by a fighter named Eve from the Colosseum, but they suddenly tell him it's his lucky day, as we see her walking in. So Mamori goes up to her and asks if she knows where the Witch of Taboo is, so she mentions that she has been to the Golden Demon Zone, but she never met the witch. Ceres listens to their conversation, and Eve wonders why Mamori is looking for the witch. So he tells her it's his dream to be a scholar, but she warns him about going to the area and tells him he won't survive even 3 days there, telling him to cherish his life. After that, Ceres notes that Eve was lying, so she must know where the witch is. When they get back to the inn, Mamori realizes he forgot Pigamaru's food, so he decides to use his bag to make some food. He gives some to Ceres, and she finds food from his world delicious. She finds the plastic wrapper beautiful, but the wind blows, and Mamori stares at her. He wonders how they can get Eve to talk, thinking about what blood fighters value. Ceres thinks they would want money, so they can buy their freedom from their owners, but she notes it would be a ridiculous amount. Meanwhile, Eve meets with a girl, and she swears to help her get out of there. Ceres practices with her spirit armor, and Mamori is amazed by how skilled she is. He asks her to teach him, since he thinks he relies too much on his skills, but as she starts to explain things to him, she's reminded of how she used to teach the other knights. She tells him to attack her, so he tries punching her, and she shows him how to restrain someone. His sweat drips onto her, so she becomes embarrassed, but they continue with the training. After that, she sniffs his clothes, and she realizes that she likes him, but he suddenly appears behind her, so she worries that he saw her being weird, but she says she's just washing their clothes. Mamori reads his book after that, and he mentions that he can't sleep. So Ceres reveals some herbs that can help him, saying they have different effects. Mamori uses a cube to make soup, and Ceres finds it delicious. She adds her herbs, but after they drink it, she realizes she used the wrong bottle, and it energizes them instead. Mamori tells her it's okay, deciding to stay up and read his book, but she asks him if there's anything she can do to help him. She wonders if he's into her, but he notes that he's only focused on getting his revenge, thinking it's like a curse, so she swears to help him lift his curse as soon as possible. The next day, they go to the Blood Colosseum and realize that Eve is known as one of the strongest. She was sold there as a slave, but she quickly became popular and has been undefeated for 3 years. Her final match is set for tomorrow, so they realize they can't bargain with money, since she has made enough to buy her own freedom. Ceres mentions that Eve already had the money 2 years ago, so they realize she's also trying to free the girl. Sarah's also mentions that most fighters die in their final match, because the Duke who runs the Colosseum matches them up against someone out of their league, but Mamori thinks it will be their chance. Mamori approaches Eve, and she once again tells him she doesn't know anything about the Witch of Taboo, but he knows she's hiding the truth. He wonders if she owes the witch, and she tells him she doesn't, but Sarah mentions that she's lying again. Eve prepares to fight them, but he reveals that the Duke is planning against her, saying he wants to help her, because he knows that she has information on the witch. He mentions that he could kidnap the girl she's fighting for, which makes her angry, but he explains that he just wanted to show her that he knows about her situation. She thanks them for the information, but she mentions that they can't run away, because the Duke will put a bounty on their heads. Mamori thinks they can hide at the witch's lair, but she notes that no one can reach the demon zone. He promises to protect her companion Liz, but she isn't sure of his strength, so he tells her he's strong enough to defeat the Skeleton King. She mentions that the monsters in the demon zone are far stronger, but he reveals that he was the one who defeated the Black Dragon Knights, and she doesn't believe him, so he paralyzes her to show his power. Sarah's also transforms into a real form, and mentions that she was the one they were chasing, so Eve believes them, but she still plans to fight. He asks her whether the Duke will keep his promise if she wins, and she thinks he won't be cruel enough to deny her freedom, but he calls her naive for trusting the Duke. As he walks away with Sarah's, he tells Eve that they will leave tomorrow morning, saying she should come with them if she changes her mind. Sarah's apologizes to Mamori for revealing her identity, but it made his story more believable, so he doesn't mind it. They come across the Ashinto, who tells everyone that the people in Alice have been cursed for rebelling against the curse god and their descendant Maki, saying the curse was also responsible for the death of the Black Dragon Knights. Mamori and Sarah's move forward, and they see another group of Ashinto harassing a girl, so he uses his berserk skill to make them fight each other. Sarah's wonders if Eve will be able to get her freedom if she wins the fight, and Mamori doesn't believe it's going to happen because he thinks the Duke is evil. Meanwhile, Eve overhears the Duke saying he's going to give her numbing poison before the fight, because he wants to make sure she dies, so she realizes that she can't trust him. His subordinate wonders what he plans to do with Liz, and he explains that he wants to take care of her, because he thinks she will become a beautiful woman when she grows up. He mentions that he can sell her if he gets bored of her, and Eve realizes that there's no happy ending for them. So she meets with Mamori, and decides to go to the demon zone with him. Meanwhile, Liz is being beaten by her boss, but Eve arrives and almost kills her in anger, so she begs for forgiveness, saying she was told by the Duke to discipline Liz. Eve tells her to tell everyone they went south, and the woman apologizes to Liz for everything she has done to her. Mamori arrives, telling Eve to go ahead without him, and he approaches the woman, saying he isn't going to be deceived by her acting. She tells him they'll never get away, saying they're all finished, and she doesn't think he will hurt her, because she's the only one who can save them from the Duke. But he can't allow her to live after all the things she has done to Liz, so he uses his paralyze and poison skills on her. She tells him he will go to hell if he doesn't spare her, but he mentions that they're both going to hell, because they aren't good people. As Mamori meets with the others, Liz begs him to let her join them, so he explains that her life might be in danger if she goes with them. But she doesn't care, as long as she's with Eve, who asks him about the noise coming from him, so he introduces them to Pigamaru. She mentions that before she can tell him the location of the Witch of Taboo, she needs to know why he wants to meet her, so he explains that he needs her to decipher an ancient inscription. Eve decides to trust him, because even though he could have used Liz to get the information out of her, he still saved them. Sarah wonders if it's okay for them to enter the demon zone with a child, but he assures her that he can protect Liz. She calls him kind, but he mentions that it's for their mutual interest, because they need Eve to contact the witch. He adds that Liz is a dark elf like the witch, so he's hoping they will get a positive reaction from her, since they saved her kind. They see that their pursuers are about to catch up to them, so Eve decides to fight them while everyone else gets away. But Mamori tells her she can't hold them off on her own, and if she dies, he won't get the information on the witch. They decide to fight together, and they use their horses as decoys, as the first group of pursuers follow them. But Eve reveals that they're the Duke's personal soldiers, and the second group will be the Ashinto. Mamori tells her to hide with Liz, because he only needs Sarah's for his plan. Eve isn't sure that they can win, because they're outnumbered, but he mentions that if they can't defeat them head-on, he will force them into an area that's advantageous for him. Magi and his men come across a broken branch, and he realizes it's a trap to make them enter the forest. Ceres comes out, but she's wearing a mask, and Magi promises to let her go if she hands over even Liz. He mentions that they were the ones who killed the Black Dragon Knights, and she offers to lead them to their targets, but he orders his men to stop because he knows she's leading them into a trap. He thinks she's trying to get them into a spell's range, so he tells his men to maintain their distance, but she asks him if they aren't going to kill her with their curse. He reveals that the Ashinto are the successors of the Assassin Guild's legacy, and they use highly advanced poisons which are created using a special formula that has been passed down by the descendants of the few surviving members of the Assassin Guild. She realizes that assassinations done using poisons leave no trace, so people think it's because of a curse, and he reveals that they accidentally came across the incident involving the Black Dragon Knights. But since they were known to have unparalleled strength, their death could only be explained as a consequence of a curse. The Ashinto claim that they were the ones who killed the Black Dragon Knights so that people will think their curse is real, and they plan to use the Zahn family to take over the country. He thinks she isn't going to face them alone, so he wonders where her friends are, but she removes her mask and reveals that she faced the Black Dragon Knights and survived. But he doesn't believe she was the one who killed them because he thinks she's weaker than Garland. He introduces her to a man named Berga, who is supposed to be Eve's opponent in her final fight, and he mentions that Berga has a younger brother named Varen, and they're the strongest brothers in the Ashinto. He reveals that they're the decoys, and his men erase their presence to circle her from behind, but he's impressed by how beautiful she is, so he wants to turn her into a true disciple of the cursed gods. She kneels before him, and he plans on making her bear his child, but Momori suddenly uses Pigamaru's extended arms to paralyze everyone. Magi wonders what happened to their other unit, so Momori reveals that he has already taken care of them, and he poisons Magi. He knew Magi wasn't going to enter the forest, so he told Ceres to create a sense of unease among them. When the mystery of the unease is solved, it gives a feeling of omnipotence, which paralyzes thoughts, and created the opening. Magi passes away, and Momori is relieved seeing that the first wave of soldiers has returned, because if they didn't come back, his plan would have failed. He thinks about reconnecting with Pigamaru, but he realizes he has been putting a lot of strain on him. So he and Eve decide to fight the soldiers, while Ceres stays back to protect Liz. The soldiers see Eve, and they rush towards her, but before they can reach her, Momori paralyzes them. The Duke also arrives, but as Momori tries to paralyze him, the system tells him the skill has reached its limit. So he uses his darkness skill to blind everyone, while Eve takes them out, and they try to run away, but he tells her to kill everyone. The Duke starts screaming as Momori realizes that he's already losing his mind, even though he hasn't used his berserk skill on him. Eve thanks Momori for giving her the opportunity to fight again, because she thought her fighting days were over, and she rushes towards the soldiers, killing everyone. The Duke mentions that he will remember everything and make them pay, but Momori paralyzes him, calling him stupid because he thought they were going to let him get away. Eve explains that she might have forgiven him if he only betrayed her, but he also hurt Liz, so she decides to kill him, slicing off his head. Momori thanks Ceres for helping him during the fight, and he makes her the group's vice captain, telling her she can make any decision she wants when he isn't around. After that, he freezes the bodies of the Ashinto, and he shatters them, planning to pin the Duke's death on them. Liz asks Ceres if she will grow up to be like her, because the innkeeper told her she won't be treated as a woman if her chest doesn't grow, but Ceres tells her to forget everything the innkeeper told her. As Liz and Eve fall asleep, Ceres tells Momori to rest while she keeps watch, but he mentions that he can't sleep, so she offers to let him rest on her lap. He offers the same to her, so she rests on him, but she realizes he was just joking, so she quickly gets up. He asks for her permission to grab her ear, and he mentions that it feels strange. She wonders if he has a special attachment to Eve and Liz, because he's gentle with them, so he mentions that Eve reminds him of his uncle, saying the only reason he wants to return to his old world is because of his aunt and his uncle. He thinks Liz is just like him, since they both grew up in a harsh environment, but the difference between them is he kills everything in his path, and his only goal is revenge. He tells Ceres she can leave him anytime she wants, but she isn't planning on doing that, since she also hates Vicious. So he mentions that as a reward for her help, he will grant any request she wants once they're done. Meanwhile, Ayaka is trained by Naya, but she notes that Ayaka should never tell anyone she's training her, because Vicious won't give her permission. Ayaka wonders why Naya is helping her, so she mentions that Ayaka reminds her of her little sister. Momori buys clothes for Liz, and she's happy he bought something for her. Ceres thinks they should name their group, and she proposes they call themselves the Lord of the Flies Brigade, because it was the name used for the army led by the Fly King. They reach the demon zone, and Eve tells Momori to imbue magic into her hand, and it shows a map which reveals the location of the Witch of Taboo. At night, Momori thinks about how his hatred for Vicious isn't fading, and he knows the demon zone is dangerous. But it's also an opportunity for him to get a lot of experience, so he can close the gap between him and the S-rank heroes. Meanwhile, Vicious tells everyone that even though their levels have been increasing, they have no combat skills. So she gathered people from all over the country to train them, saying they need to get ready to face the Demon Emperor. After that, Vicious tells Naya that the heroes need to acquire combat skills, and she also wants them to level up, so she plans to go to the Golden Demon Zone. Ceres offers to help Liz carry the bags, but she thinks that if the others carry less baggage, it will increase her chances of survival. As they move forward, they're attacked by a monster, and Momori thinks it's similar to the ones he fought in the ruins. It attacks Eve, but she blocks it, and Momori uses his poison and paralyze skills to defeat it. He follows it up with his sleep skill, because he wants to check if his skills will work on the creatures in the demon zone, but he realizes that the monsters there are weaker compared to the ones in the ruins. He stabs the monster, and reveals that the seaweeds it dropped are an ingredient for a forbidden item, but seeing that Ceres is interested in it, he decides to give it to her. As they continue their journey, they come across a river, and Eve thinks she should carry Liz across it, but Momori decides to respect Liz's decision, since she wants to cross it on her own. She mentions that she doesn't want to be completely dependent on Eve, but she suddenly slips, so Pigamaru saves her. Momori mentions that he wants to support her, because they have a similar childhood, and as she manages to get across, she wonders what they're talking about. So Eve mentions that they were wondering what Momori and Ceres' child will look like, which surprises Ceres, causing her to fall into the water. She doesn't want them to stop for her, so Momori gives his coat to her so that she doesn't catch a cold, and he assures her he washes it regularly, but she wants it to smell like him. They suddenly come across the monsters that made Liz and Eve flee the demon zone, and Eve mentions that she can't defeat them, so Momori tells her to stay back. As the monsters get into his range, he paralyzes them and follows up with his berserk skill, which causes them to bleed to death, and the system tells him that he was able to level up. He cuts off a piece of the monster, and Eve wonders if he's going to eat it, but Ceres mentions that he will use it to enhance Pigamaru's strength. Pigamaru is worried that he needs to eat the monster, but Momori assures him that it will look different once he has made the enhancement solution. They suddenly sense another monster nearby, but it's just the egg in Momori's bag, which is about to hatch. A horse comes out of the egg, and Ceres is worried it might attack them, but it has no hostility towards them. They realize it has an organ on its back, which absorbs mana, so Momori pours mana into it, and after it absorbs 1000 MP, it transforms into a black horse, but it still wants Momori to give it more mana. So he gives it another 10,000, transforming it into a huge monster, and Liz tells them to name it, so he calls it Slay. Meanwhile, the heroes are getting trained by the people Vicious assigned, but Takuto mentions that they're only facing weak monsters, so they gain nothing but experience. At night, they come across a group of monsters, which the teachers find too strong for the heroes to handle, so they tell them to stay back. Naya thinks the monsters are so strong that she won't be able to hold back and save the kill for the heroes. They're able to kill 2 of the monsters, but the rest of them change their path to attack the heroes, so Takuto steps up and uses his Dragonic Buster to burn all of them. The next day, Ceres wakes up, and she realizes that Momori isn't there, but Eve tells her she shouldn't worry, because he isn't the kind of person to leave them. They go outside, and see that Momori killed monsters while they were asleep, but Eve is shocked that he was able to kill a human-like beast by himself. They continue their journey, and Ceres tells Momori to rest for a while, but he mentions that he wants to go as far as possible before it starts raining. He wonders if Liz is scared, but she mentions that she feels safe because he's with them. They're suddenly attacked by a monster, and Eve easily kills it. But Momori still feels like something's wrong, and it suddenly lets out a scream, causing all the monsters in the area to rush towards them. Momori wonders what they should do next, thinking the monsters will overwhelm them, but Eve volunteers to act as bait, saying she will buy time for everyone to escape. She blames herself for what's happening, thinking they're about to get swarmed because she got careless. She promises to make it back alive, but Momori knows that she won't survive, and he tells her not to blame herself, saying she did the right thing because anyone would have killed the monster that ambushed them. He explains that they need her to take them to the witch because they need to negotiate with her, and they know that she trusts Eve. He takes his voice projection gem and he puts it in his helmet as he mentions that he has the best chance at survival because he's with Pigamaru and Slay. So he decides to act as bait as he explains that his skills can defeat the human-like beasts, and he tells Ceres to take care of everything if he doesn't make it back. Meanwhile, the heroes see the monsters approaching, so they start to panic, thinking they need to retreat. A group of monsters attack them, so Takuto slices them into pieces as he wonders why the other monsters are running past them. One of the girls is attacked, so Kabato saves her, but she gets knocked down and the girl runs away. She thinks she's going to be okay because no one has died yet, but she remembers Momori, thinking he's already dead. We return to Momori as he mentions that the monsters are about to arrive, and we learn that Ceres and the others are hiding in a cave. He pours his mana into Slay, transforming it into a huge monster, and he activates his voice projection gem as he tells Pigamaru to signal the start of the battle. So he lets out a piercing scream, and Momori realizes that they were able to attract the monster's attention. He wears his helmet, and he orders Slay to run around the forest as the monsters chase after them. He notes that they could end up dying if his plan fails, and human-like beasts appear, so he prepares to take them on, thinking it's time to start the battle. Ayaka realizes that 2 of her classmates died, and she asks Yasu what happened to them because she knows that they're part of his group. But he explains that he's a high-ranking hero, while they're just nobodies, saying they died because they were weak. She realizes that he didn't protect them, so she reminds him that he's an A-rank hero, saying it's his duty to protect them, but he tells her to shut her mouth, telling her to stop acting like she's better than him. He explains that they deserve to die because they were terrible people, saying they used to make fun of him, so he doesn't feel sorry for them. But Takuto interferes, telling him he's a nobody because he's behaving like a loser. So he becomes angry and he starts using his skill as Takuto continues to insult him, thinking he's pathetic. But he tells Takuto not to get too cocky just because he's an S-ranker, saying Ayaka is also an S-rank hero, but she still hasn't learned a unique skill. He explains that hero rank isn't everything, because it's possible for lower-ranking heroes to beat S-rankers, so he tells Takuto not to look down on him, saying he will prove that he's built different. Almada wants to take him on, but Takuto stops him, so Yasu thinks they're afraid of him, and he starts walking away, as Takuto tells Ayaka that she's dragging the S-rank heroes down because she's the only one who hasn't learned a unique skill. She hears her classmates talking about Kabato, and they mention that she's missing, so Ayaka becomes worried. We see Eve with the others, as she mentions that she wants to go after Momori because she knows that he's exhausted, saying he hasn't been sleeping well because he's always looking after them at night. She explains that she can hide her presence in the forest, and she reveals that she has night vision, so she can navigate the terrain while it's dark. She mentions that she wants him to survive, and Ceres thinks she's telling the truth, so she allows her to proceed with her plan. Eve promises to make it back alive, and Ceres mentions that she will protect Liz while Eve is away. We return to Momori, as the monsters continue to chase after him, but Pigamaru extends his arms, as Momori uses his berserk skill on the monsters, causing them to fight each other. But a group of monsters are about to catch up to him, so he paralyzes them, but he notes that the human-like beasts have already adapted to his attacks. It suddenly starts raining, as he realizes that he can no longer hear their movements, and he notes that he's running out of mana, so he thinks he needs to level up before it reaches 0. He knows that the human-like beasts are worth a ton of XP, so he thinks he can level up if he kills them. But he knows it's going to be difficult, because he needs to be close to them to receive XP when they die. So he comes up with a plan, and he rushes towards the monsters, paralyzing them as he dashes past them. His mana is about to reach 0, but he approaches the human-like beasts, and he uses his berserk skill to finish them off. He's able to level up, and his MP is fully restored, but there are 2 giant monsters that start chasing after him, and he realizes that his skills won't work on them, thinking he needs to have them in his line of sight for it to affect them. so he uses Slay as a decoy as he appears behind them and he paralyzes them before using his berserk skill to eliminate them. Countless monsters block his path, so he attacks them with his skills, but one of them crashes into Slay, and he falls off as the monsters surround him. But he continues to use his skills, and he's able to wipe them out as he levels up multiple times. We see Kabato as she thinks about Momori, thinking she could have saved him, but she was too afraid to do anything. Eve sees her, wondering what a human is doing in the forest, and she realizes that Kabato reminds her of Liz. But she suddenly gets attacked by a girl named Itsuki, who uses her lightning to paralyze Eve. She thinks Eve is trying to kill Kabato, so she prepares to take her on, as Eve realizes that they're both heroes from another world. She isn't able to speak because of the lightning, and Itsuki continues to attack her, but before she delivers the finishing blow, her sister Hijiri stops her, saying Eve is different from the other monsters. She can tell that Eve is more intelligent, and she apologizes for her sister, wondering if her throat was hurt from the attack. She introduces them as heroes from another world, and Eve mentions she's looking for her master. Hijiri thinks her master must be strong if he's alive after the stampede, and Eve tells her his strength can't even be measured, so Hijiri finds him interesting, but they let her leave. Meanwhile, we see Momori defeating the monsters as a giant creature appears, but he manages to put it to sleep and take it out. He notes he still has plenty of mana, but Pigamaru is reaching its limit. We see he was injured from his fall earlier, and he detects that there's still one humanoid monster left, but it seems to be staying out of his range. It suddenly charges at him, but before he can paralyze it, it launches an orb that starts firing lasers at him. He gets hit by one of the blasts, and Slay also gets hit, causing him to crash. He knows he's in trouble, but he asks Pigamaru for a favor. The monster launches another orb, which starts firing lasers, and the area is covered by dust. It suddenly notices Momori's helmet, and it sees Slay behind it, but Momori suddenly flies down from above and paralyzes it, finishing it off with his berserk. He reveals he asked Pigamaru to use his helmet as a distraction, while Slay boosted him up into the sky. He levels up after the monster dies, and his paralyze unlocks a new level. Slay reverts to its smaller form, and Momori thanks them for all their help. There's suddenly a wolf that jumps out at him, but he saves him just in time. She carries them all as they head back, and she mentions her encounter with the girls, but Momori is glad she didn't mention his name, because he thinks the other heroes will become obstacles for him to get his revenge on Vicious. They manage to make it back to the others, and Liz is happy they're safe. Ceres treats Momori, and Eve decides to guard them for the night. Momori notes he's too restless to sleep, so Ceres offers him her lap. She tells him he doesn't need to keep everything to himself, because she knows he has been acting like he can handle everything ever since they entered the demon zone, so that he didn't worry even Liz, but she worries for him. So he tells her to support him so that she doesn't need to worry, and she swears to protect him, promising to help him in any way. Momori eventually falls asleep, and as Ceres puts him down, she trips over and lands on top of him. She thinks about kissing him, but she pulls out just in time. Meanwhile, Kabato thanks Itsuki and Hijiri for saving her, but Itsuki wonders why she's a part of Asagi's group, thinking it doesn't suit her. But we see when Asagi came to recruit her, she became intimidated to join, but she stayed because she thinks Asagi might be able to help Ayaka in the future. We see Momori and the others continue to travel, but Ceres tells him that there's something she wants to confess to him one day. She realizes that she loves him, but she hopes to gain the courage to tell him. They enter the witch's territory, and a giant golem starts to form, but Momori paralyzes it, and Eve wonders if she should destroy it, but Momori decides to leave it so they don't make an enemy of the witch. They head deeper into the area and find a hut, so they check inside it, and Eve finds a hidden path. They find golems mining underground, and they reach a door, which requires a huge amount of mana to open, but Momori is confident in his mana level, and they manage to open it. Meanwhile, Kabato manages to make it back to the others, and Asagi is happy to see her. Ayaka is also glad she's safe, and Hijiri reveals that there were assassins targeting the students. She knows Ayaka would have lost it if Kabato died, but she thinks it would have made things boring. We see Vicious as she gets news of movement from the Demon Emperor's army, and she calls for the heroes to return, wondering if they have gotten stronger after experiencing loss. Momori and the others find a completely different space through the door, and the Witch of Taboo appears before them, introducing herself as Erika. Momori knows it's his chance to decipher his scroll, thinking he will finally be able to get his revenge on Vicious. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.